This is Dave from cheapbooks.com. I am playing Cities in Motion 2, and I will be adding a monorail system. Obviously, I already have a monorail, so I'm adding a new line. Excuse me. And this line is going to go from the mainland on the west. It's going to go to the northern island. It's going to go along the top of the island, and perhaps I'll make it all the way to the other side. So I'm going to start in this area because there's not a lot of people in this area. There's a lot of places where I can build the start of my monorail. It's going to be heading east-west, and it's going to be going down this road that I've already started on. And I'm going to try and build it at a height of 8 meters. It's very difficult. And the other thing I might do is I might build the monorail in the middle of a highway system, which is going to be something that I've never done before. But I'll have little choice because of the layout. Wow, that road is weird. The terrain in this area is not very flat. It's very hilly, so a lot of the roads that I built changed their height very rapidly. That was pretty high to get up over that. I have a pretty complicated system here, and I'm getting a lot of traffic jams that I can't fix, and I'm hoping that if I improve my transit system that the traffic jams will go away. This is weird. I won't be able to get over this. I'm going to check that out. As you can see, this monorail has a little bit of a weird shape to it, but because the monorail at this intersection is kind of high and it's coming from the bottom of a hill, I might not be able to make it over. It might be too steep. I'd have to make a lot of serious design changes here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to build at 16 meters. I'm going to build right across here. It should probably let me do it. You know, it'd be funny if I'd be able to go under. Ooh, I can. Okay, so I'm going to go under. And that should solve the problem. I'll probably have to start over again back here, so I am going to build like this, and then I'm going to delete this segment. So I did that so I didn't have to delete the entire line, and then I'm going to see if I can continue from here up until here, which I can, and then I'm going to delete this little stub that I made. And now I will continue with my monorail. So as you can see, it had to go up this slope and had a lot of weird sloping to do, and I was able to sneak it under that other existing line. And now we're going to have the same issue but going downhill. So this will be 8 meters hopefully. I'm going to build that to there, and then I'm going to build the second piece as a separate segment, which should solve a lot of the building issues. And I'm going to make a pivot point right here. So I can build over here. It's another weird situation where I had to build very high. Oh, the reason why is because there's an on-ramp. And I had to build to get over the on-ramp. So I'm going to build that to there. And let's see if I can bring it back down. You want it to be at 16 meters. Looks like it won't do it. So we'll have to do it as it is. And the reason why you want it at 16 meters is because when you're on the coast, most of the coastal highways are 8 meters, and you'd have to be at 16 to go over them. So I'm going to build to here. Let's see if I can bring it down to 16. Yeah, it looks like I can. I'm going to build it to here, and then I'm going to do something I've never done before. I actually do have a monorail that goes between a highway, but they're actually at the same level. This one is going to be different because the monorail is higher than the highway. As long as we don't have any roads that cross over the highway, I should be fine. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I want the traffic. I have a lot of north-south transit systems, and I want to get some of the east-west transit going. My customers are not that satisfied. Unfortunately, they're not going to pick up a lot of people along the coast. That's one of the disadvantages. So now we have an elevated road that I'm going to have to go around. I want this to connect to as many transit systems as I can. Very important. And hopefully people will transfer to this line. Okay, so I have almost made it all the way across. So I might do this a little bit differently than I normally do. Normally I build the transit lines with the intention of getting people coverage so that people can get onto the transit system. But with this one, what I might do is design it so that people can switch from one transit line to another. Which means that the stops are going to be near the stops of other transit lines. And they're not going to be designed to cover buildings and things like that. So I'm at the point that I'm going to do a turn. I'm going to make a loop. So I'm going to do it right here. And I'm going to go around this building. Maybe I don't have to. Maybe I could do it right over here. You have to do around 3/4 of the loop. You can't go all the way around because the road cannot connect to itself. So I will finish it off with a pivot point. And it doesn't have to be a perfect loop. And at the flattened part of the loop is where I'm going to put the station. So I'm going to have a station right here, because you don't need 2 stations on the loop, you only need 1. That'll be their final stop. And I'm going to place the stops near other transit lines. Unfortunately, there's a bug in the game, and the bug in the game has turned off all the stops. So I can't see where the other stops are. It's going to be very difficult to figure out how to place my transit stops when I can't see where the other stops are. I'm going to have to guess. Let's see here. I can't really see. Yeah, like I said, it's unfortunate that the bug does this, but I have to live with it, unfortunately, until I don't know how it corrects itself, but it will suddenly correct itself. For some reason, it won't let me place a stop going back. I don't know why. It should let me put a stop right here. You have to have the stop. You have to point at the actual rail when you place a stop. Oh, there it is. I saw one. Looking for that up arrow. Come on. There it is. Okay, that was very difficult. This is going to be a little bit confusing. Okay, let's see if we could find another nice location. Okay, we've got a lot of stops over here. As you can see, all those blue arrows are bus stops. So I'm going to place a monorail stop in this area. It should be a good junction. I want to be able to connect with that underground metro, with the monorail. I see a metro stop over here. I see a tram stop over here. I'm going to put it right over here. Should work out. It looks like the issue with that bug that I described has fixed itself. So I'm going to turn off all these line indicators. And I'm going to continue placing stops. The last one was right there, so the next one should be around here somewhere. We'll put one over here. It's not working out the way I wanted it to. I was hoping that I would make more connections near the metro, near a lot of other stops, but there's not a lot of stops up here on the northern coast. This would have been a great spot right here. But I'm going to do it over here instead. People will have to walk a little bit. That's also a good spot where I just laid those down. And then over here, the final stop before they go over the river. People will actually walk a good distance to get from one stop to the next. So you shouldn't have to worry too much about how far they walk. I will put a stop here. I'm going to put it more near the road. Want it to be close to those bus stops over there. There's an intersection right there, which would be a good spot. This intersection has a couple of bus stops. I'll put it right here. And that has a metro underground, which is really good. We've got a lot of stops over here. I'm pretty sure that the line is going to work. I'm positive that people are going to ride this line. It's rare that I make a line that nobody rides. Usually if that happens, it's because it's going through a very underpopulated area, or because it doesn't have enough stops. Okay, so maybe I'll get one more stop in. No, I don't think so. I think it's going to be like that. Now I am going to drop down the monorail line. You start by clicking on the depot. You then go to each stop. If you zoom out, you can scroll faster. You don't want to make your lines too long, because if you make your lines too long, you're going to have a lot of vehicles that break down. They can't go too long of a distance. Halfway across the map should be fine, but if you go all the way across the map, you're going to have frequent problems with your vehicles. And you'd have to alleviate that by having extra vehicles, or by buying vehicles that have smaller capacity but better maintenance schedules. Okay, so here we go to the final loop, and we will return. You want to make sure every stop that you add turns white. If it's yellow, that means it has not been added, and it can be very difficult to insert them in the line afterwards. It's better to get it right the first time. And I'm also going to add that my experience is that lines that run along the coast usually don't get that much traffic. But we'll see how this one turns out. It looks like my rating for the city has gone up a little bit. It was at 46%, now it's up to 53%. They call it reputation. I've been adding various transit lines. And then you click the depot at the end, and it should be running. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to buy some vehicles. I'm going to buy 10 vehicles, and just in case they have maintenance issue, I'm going to buy actually this the highest capacity vehicle has a good maintenance time on it, so I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to change the schedule to run the trains a little bit faster than they normally do. I'm going to set it for 2 minutes using a custom interval. I'm going to have to add a few more trains, so I'll have to buy a few more because they're going to run more. And I should be set. So the trains are already running, which is good. Monorails. I'm going to check my monorail coverage, which is right there. So the line I added is the horizontal line across the top of the mini-map. Because obviously there was a big gap, and it's not just for the monorail, it's for all of my transit. It's difficult for people to get from the left side of the map to the right side of the map and vice versa. Getting a lot of traffic jams, people trying to cross over. So I'm going to add more lines going back and forth. It's possible that in the upper level I might add a circular line up in this area. I could add one line that easily does a loop and maybe comes back. And I could add a line that goes through the center of the northern island. That is another obvious one that makes sense. The northern area has a lower population. I want to cover the areas that have the highest population first. So it's a bigger priority for me to move into the high population areas. So what I'm probably going to do is build from my depot. I'm going to build a line that heads south. Usually I would go 2 blocks south. I'm going to scan this road as it goes across. I don't think this is a good road to build a line, but I'm going to scan it anyway to see where it heads. And the reason why is because there is another line on the other side, which is right there. I don't want to be too close to it. I want to spread out a little bit. I really want to be in this road right here. There's definitely room for me to build above it. Let's see if we could find where halfway on the map is. Halfway on the map is probably this road. And it would probably require its own depot, a new depot, which would be located right here. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put in a new depot for a monorail. I always use the large monorail depot. I'm going to put it right here. Actually, I want to just, yeah. Well, we'll see what happens. It doesn't have to be exact. And it will build across. It's very difficult to build over here, much like the first one, because the terrain has a lot of slopes in it. For example, that's the top of a hill right there. So to make it easy, you go to the edge of the hill and then you start a new segment. I'm going to make a pivot point right there. Well, I didn't like that. I don't want to knock any of those houses down, that's for sure. And of course, when I build this monorail, it takes away my ability to put a highway there. So it's one or the other. This is the north-south highway that I built. Doesn't get a lot of traffic right now. The monorail is good. It's a relatively fast transit system, and it might not be included with every edition of Cities in Motion 2. I happened to purchase it separately. I seem to recall it was inexpensive, and I would say it's definitely worth it. This is starting to look like my hometown. Okay, so we're going to go over this monorail. Which seems to be impossible. This could be a steep slope over here. but it looks like it made it. And we'll get back to the normal level. And just keep on building. In the end, all of these monorail lines are really going to be worth it. I'm really glad that I'm working on them. And I really need the coverage on this side of the map. There's a lot of people traveling back and forth, and they don't have the superior coverage that you see on the rest of the map. The rest of the map, people have access to 5 to 10 different transit lines, and on this side they might only have access to 1 or 2. So it's going to be a big improvement. Okay, so we're going to lose a few buildings here. Now the question is, where do we cross over to? We're in the right area. I think the area that I selected was right there, so we have to make it over to that area, that divided road, which is called a boulevard in the game. You go right over to here, 16-meter height. And it looks like we cross over another monorail. So now at this point I'm going to bring it back down to 8 meters. And I'm going to keep on building. You want to build as low to the ground as possible, as much as possible, because you might end up having a lot of different transit lines crossing above or below, and I think it's less confusing if you're always as low to the ground as possible. And there's going to be a few exceptions where you have to cross over 2 transit lines that are near each other. But I haven't seen it yet. Here's going to be an example. We've got 2 that are near each other, so I'm going to cross over both of them at 16 meters. And there's going to be a third one. So that's a high monorail line that I just built. And then I'm going to come back down to the normal level right here. And what I'm doing is I'm trying to make to place it at each intersection, because the roads tend to be straight. Obviously some of the roads are not straight, and when they're not, you have to build along the curve. I'm getting near the end of the monorail. The road is too long to build, so I have to stop it right here. And then I'm going to pick it up and add another segment. Keep on going. Now from here, I'm going to travel over this river and make a connection with the other side. However, there's not a lot of stuff over here. There's not a lot of people. I see a bus stop over here in the corner. There's not a lot of transit opportunities for this side. And there are bus stops here. I've seen 2 of them so far. But like I said, there's a bug in the game, and it causes the stops to disappear. Because my map is huge right now. So what I'm probably going to do is make a loop in one of these neighborhoods, and it seems like a waste to make this large, expensive monorail, but I have the money to do it. And if it improves traffic, you know, might as well go ahead and do it, even though I don't have traffic problems over here. But I'm sure that it's the right thing to do. All the disadvantages, things like costs and things like that, I don't have to worry about. I have plenty of cash. The only issue is, of course, that I'm going to lose a few houses. What happened here? That connection was not made properly. I have to delete it. Okay, so now after I finish this loop, I am going to start putting in stations. You only need one station on the loop, and I usually put it at the flattened area. I might only have one station. I think I'm going to put a second station over here just to add some coverage. People will use it. So I'll put a second station over here. This is a very central line, and it's going through a very highly populated area. So there's a chance a lot of people might actually use it. And there's a lot of connections over here. You got 2 tram lines crossing over there. Got another intersection with two tram lines crossing over. Plus, I don't see the subway stops, but I see the coverage area for the subway. So there must be subway stops nearby. Over here we've got an underground subway. We've got 2 trams. So I'm going to put this right here. This is going to be a busy intersection. This one has 2 tram lines. I see a bus. I see some coverage area for the subway, but the stop isn't nearby. The metro has a wider coverage area. So if you line everything up, metro to metro, tram to tram, bus to bus, they're not all going to take the same path. The metro covers a much wider area, and the stops won't align simply because of the if I'm aligning by coverage area, and when you align by coverage area, the stops are not going to line up. That's basically the way it is. But it looks like we did pretty good. I think people are going to be very happy. Hopefully it will reduce traffic. I'm prepared to do whatever it takes in regards to managing the traffic on this map. I will build as many highways as I need to. And over here we don't have as many transit options because this is the newer development. This wasn't here at the beginning of the game. And in fact, if you load this map up in your game, it might be just a big blank area. My advice, get it developed as quickly as possible, because it takes a long time. And I'm not worried about gaps in coverage over here because there's, when you have lines crisscrossing, they're going to catch all those gaps eventually. And we should be up to that station at some point. Over here I'm going to put it halfway on the road, so it's equidistant from the bus line and the tram line. And in this neighborhood they really don't have any transit yet, so that's their only transit choice. Now after you do this, I'm going to save the game, because the game often crashes on me. And then I'm going to lay the line down. Which is right here. I'm going to start at that depot. As I said, there's a bug in the game, and it makes the little icons disappear, and I have no idea where the icon is. So I don't know how to add it to the line, and I don't know how to make them come back. They come back on their own. It's got to be here somewhere. Well, it's not here. Let's just click a stop to add it to the line. Oh, there it was. I saw it. Oh, there it is. I saw a number. There it is again. It's got to be around here somewhere. I think it's going to be too difficult to work like this. Well, there's a stop. It's 3:08. Maybe I'll be able to manage. Let's see how we do with the next stop. I'm going to move the window over to here. See if I can add these stops without too much difficulty. There's 306. Okay. I was just going to say, where's 307? You'll notice that the roads under the monorail right in the center of the screen don't connect. And the reason why is because of the slope of the road. It was not possible to make them connect. Let's see if we can get this one in. Looks like we can. Another one over here. This is definitely going to take a while, but it should be worth it. My only fear is that because of the limitations of the game, I have a lot of RAM on my computer. The game only uses about 2 gigabytes, but maybe I have 14 or 12. I got a lot of RAM, and the computer is relatively fast. The pass mark is around 6,000. A fast computer today, top of the line, does around 10,000. So it's not the slowest computer. I'm using a laptop right now. The speed shouldn't affect it that much, depending on how the programmer has designed it. It should be more of a memory issue. And the game, for some reason, only uses up to 2 gigabytes. I never see you use more than 2 gigabytes. And there's no option to give it access to more than 2 gigabytes of memory. And perhaps it was designed using libraries that don't support 64-bit or something like that. But I'm concerned that I'm going to keep on working on the city and then perhaps one day I won't be able to use it anymore. And if that happens, what I will do is I'm going to load up a smaller map, and I'm just going to build my city on a smaller map. And there's also the chance that once I finish this city, I might move on to a different video game, because there are other games like Banished, for example, that I've got pretty far in, but I never completed the map, as far as the best way to say it. Now I have SSD drives on this computer, and it makes a big difference. I took out the regular drives, put in the SSD, makes it a lot faster. Okay, so I'm about 30% of the way done. Still got more to go. That's a big building. One thing that I'm not sure of, when you start the game, you have some buildings that are quite tall, but what I don't know is how many tall buildings have come along since I started the game. I don't know if the city has become more dense or not. My initial impression is that it hasn't. Although I have seen some changes. Like right now we've got all these houses. I wouldn't be surprised if they become taller apartment buildings at some point in the future. And I know that running transit lines to a neighborhood will increase its density. It will make taller buildings show up. One of the things I noticed when I was doing the west side. I probably started playing this game at least 2 years ago, and when I was younger playing video games, one of the mistakes that I would make is that if I didn't like the way the game turned out, I would just start over, maybe try a different map. But I don't do that anymore. Now, if there's a problem with the map, if I don't like the way something turned out, I try to work through it. I try to build more roads to solve traffic problems, build more transit systems, save up money. That's a different playing style. So what happens is I'm playing the same game for a long time, instead of constantly starting new games. And I definitely recommend that you try it. I've been playing city builder games probably since the first SimCity came out in the late 1980s. It's been a long time. And they've progressed a long way. I would say that this is definitely one of the better ones. Maybe even the best one that I've played. It's got a lot of variety in the buildings. It has most of the different types of transit systems that you would want. The graphics are okay. It's reasonably easy to use. It's easy to understand. It takes a while to understand how the buses are scheduled, because you'd think that they go out when they need to go out, but they actually don't. They go out on a timer. So you could send too many buses, you could send too few buses, etc. I wish it had some additional features. I wish it had things like, it does have schools and there are hospitals in the game, but it's not something that the player controls. It's the game that controls it. It would be nice if they had school bus routes, for example, and we had to lay down all the school bus routes, or if they had the routes for the postal service or for garbage delivery and recycling. It would be one more layer that we would have to add. And I would love to have had that in this game. And another feature I would like to see added would be taxi service. Taxis would obviously operate differently because they don't follow a route, but you would do something like put in a taxi stop at shopping malls and things like that, and they would have a coverage area. Perhaps you would define the coverage area for your taxis, and you could spread yourself too thin if possibly. Now I need to find, how do you add, okay, there it is right there. It's invisible. Okay, so I added that line. It took a long time. It was one of the more difficult monorail lines that I needed to add. I need to get some vehicles. So I'm going to set my schedule. The end time is 11:55 p.m. I'm going to do every 2 minutes. 9 vehicles I need to buy. But I'm going to buy more than 9. I'm going to buy like 13. Okay. They are finally on the move. Very eager to see how this line turns out. One thing that I will probably do right now is add another line. But the question is where? And that's the traffic that I'm trying to solve. There's a lot of people going right here to this building. So in theory, I should add a line near this building that takes people somewhere else. But the problem is that I did do that. And even though there's a lot of people, let's see how many people are there. Even though there's a lot of people here, the train comes through and picks them up. There's 100 people. I've seen as many as 500. The train is coming and picking those people up, but yet there's still a huge line of cars headed for that building. So I'm trying to figure out a plan. How do I lay down another line that brings people to that building? One thing I could do is I could connect existing lines. Like, for example, I could make a connection from these 2 lines that cross each other the same way you connect 2 roads. Just doing this as an example, so it's not going to be perfect. But I could make a connection like that. And then I could have monorails that run on different lines. It's definitely something that's possible. And it might alleviate some of my traffic issues. But I'm not going to do that right now. I'm not going to do that. That'll probably be one of the last things that I do. I do have a segment with the trains where they share a line. It's a diamond-shaped area, and more than one line crosses through it. So a good place to put a monorail is probably going to be either a circular monorail. I'd like to get more horizontal monorails. I don't want any more of these vertical ones. Let's look at the coverage map. For monorail, that's what the coverage looks like. And for metro, the metro is not complete yet. So up in the northwest, we don't have coverage. I'm sorry, we have coverage, we just don't have a lot of coverage. And of course over here we don't have coverage. So I'm going to come up with a plan for this, and I'll see you in the next video.